Want to get back into the headlines right now and talk about something that we have been talking a lot about, and as you see there on your screen, it is TikTok. There's now what appears to be a bipartisan push to investigate TikTok's use of user data. I do want to bring in an expert here, Brian Hoagley, the CEO of SideChannel, a cybersecurity expert here, to help break down the issues that are going on with TikTok, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Of course. So as we know, we have seen in the headlines, especially over the last few weeks and really over the last few months, TikTok is in those headlines related to cybersecurity issues. Why is that?
So it's a social media app, if no one's been aware, kind of living a bit under a rock during the last 3 years, rising in popularity as, I think, kind of as an escape. So its presence across phones and its ease of access, right, and its obvious entertainment value has made it incredibly popular. So the fact that it is kind of just out there gives it a footprint that I don't think many other applications, maybe Facebook, were kind of rivaled on. So that was kind of one aspect that I don't think anyone really looked at, how quickly an application could kind of gain favor and really move. But when you dig into what the underlying application is and really who owns it, that's, I think, where the real problem begins. Is it just social media as a problem? I think that's a different discussion. But the fact that TikTok is owned by a company called ByteDance that is headquartered in China. And due to how the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, works with or controls the corporations that exist within China, that's really the cybersecurity issue, or really the national security issue for the United States to take seriously and consider some type of actions on to either curb its usage or its influence on the citizens within the U.S.
Is our data vulnerable there on an app like TikTok? I know we could talk about all social media platforms, but TikTok specifically, is our data vulnerable?
So Director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, came out in the last couple of weeks with what he's presenting as known credible threat around TikTok as an issue that hones really in on this concern. Does the application by itself or any application on our phone pose a threat? It's hard to say yes or no. Some could if they're developed poorly, right? Some could because they are allowing access from the company that pushes them out. And then some could not because they are tested and they're not put into either the Apple Store or the Google Store to be pushed out into phones or available on phones because they're checked. The concern here is, I think, stems from what Christopher Wray, Director Wray, was saying, but we obviously don't know the details, but he wouldn't be coming out and saying these things, I don't believe, unless he had credible intelligence and information to be able to support that. So the thinking that I would have hearing his comments are that the Chinese government is influencing ByteDance or controlling ByteDance in its ability to monitor what is happening on phones that have TikTok installed. And that's where, to me, a risk really exists, is how does a foreign government, a foreign company, have control over the access, the data, the location, my buying habits, my insights, my behaviors, my likes, my dislikes, really everything that we depend on with a phone and you use a phone for, I mean, in our daily lives, where we are, who we're shopping with, who we're close to. It's ads on another level, right? It's distributed ads and advertising online at an entirely different scale, but it's controlled by a foreign entity. And that's the area that again is very concerning.
So Republicans initially pushed back against TikTok being used in the U.S., and now the governor, I'm sure you heard of South Dakota, has banned the app on state-issued phones. Some Democrats now coming out against TikTok as well. What does it say when both parties, who seem to be in agreement about nothing, are in agreement about being against this social media platform?
Well, so as a citizen of the U.S., I think it's great because it's telling me my government's actually working together to do the right thing. I don't believe that this is a bipartisan issue. I don't mean to be cavalier, but honestly, this is not a left or right issue. This is a whole of government approach. The federal government banned this application on federal devices. So the fact that states are taking this long to follow suit, I'm quite shocked. I mean, during the Trump administration, they put out that they wanted to have this initiative taken care of, and they wanted to ban TikTok or do something around it, either diversification of ByteDance from TikTok, some kind of ownership within the U.S., some type of better controls, and that never happened. And we're not seeing the Biden administration either, from a federal standpoint, really kind of coming down. So it is good to see Congress taking up this idea. It's great to see state level taking this idea. In fact, I think all 50 states should be doing this. This should be a whole of government approach to how do we deal with threats like this. And I don't think this is going to be the last time we have something like this presented to us as a country, where the citizens are being influenced or could be influenced by a national or a foreign national organization. So, I think now is the time to start developing a response and implement some type of protections or capabilities, so that when the next one comes along, we actually have kind of worked our muscle memory and figured out a way to address this as an issue.
Do you think, based on its popularity especially, that TikTok would ever be removed from, let's say, the App Store, Google Play Store here in America, where people are just not able to download it?
Well, I think that's entirely up to Google and Apple. And I believe that if the U.S. can put the right pressure, either through regulations or through just Congress or through whatever other mechanisms or arms of the government that they can, then that could be a very real possibility. Do I believe that people, as users of the platform, will kind of rise up, band together, push for the removal of it? I don't see that. Do I see the companies themselves taking on that action and removing that application? No, because they're basically removing something that their user base is willingly wanting to use. So they're giving they're giving the people what they want. They're not going to, it's not in their best interest to take that away. So I believe there needs to be some type of a regulation, some type of whole of government response, working with these technology providers to really do the right thing, at least within the United States and on behalf of, United States citizens.
Are there similar security risks? We hear a lot about different social media platforms and rumors, we'll say, about them selling data to China, other countries. Are there other cybersecurity concerns, not just with TikTok, but other social media platforms, Twitter, Meta, any of those?
I think anytime you develop an application and you publish it for use, there's always going to be a risk. And the areas that we need to hone in on are, how was the code developed? Are those developers, are those technology companies using third-party code that they have assessed and scanned and really dug into to look for vulnerabilities? Are the coding practices of any of these organizations who are making these, they themselves have been not using a third-party code in any way? Or do they have good quality coding practices? Are they following good standards and building on known good standards like NIST or OWASP or other recognized standards that we have out in the community, within the security community, to really leverage? There's the application, right? Obviously, there's the risk on the phone, on your device itself as that app. But then there's the aggregation of the data that sits on the back end, in the data centers, in the cloud, wherever those reside. And within the United States, I think we have the controls and the laws around privacy, confidentiality, and security that are starting to really ramp up. Security now kind of coming to its own. Privacy's been really around for quite a bit. Within the United States, we have those types of regulations to enforce those controls within US-based companies. But those don't exist over in other countries. So we really need some type of diplomatic approach to work with these other countries. The EU did it with GDPR, and that actually extends out. You see a lot of US companies having to figure out, how do we meet GDPR? How can we do that with our regulations and our diplomacy overseas with other countries to make sure that our data is protected as US citizens and as others that reside on applications backed by foreign entities?
All right, Brian Hoagley there with SideChannel. Thank you so much for being here. Anything else that you want to add before we let you go?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about this. It's been coming up, and I don't think it's something that we need to take our eye off of. I think this is a story that needs to, really kind of take shape, and we need to push our elected officials to start coming together and making some better decisions around how to address this risk. Otherwise, it's not going to get any better.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. A lot of great advice, and I'm sure we'll be in touch with you in the future as this does continue to develop.
Thank you.